Alright, let's dive into this because it's a tangled mess of geopolitics, misinformation, and high-stakes brinkmanship. Here's the deal. Iran just shut down Trump's claim that U.S. Iran negotiations were starting today. Personally, I think this is classic Trump, big claims, little follow-through. But what's really fascinating here is the disconnect between what's being said publicly and what's actually happening behind the scenes. Iran's like, nope, not talking to the U.S., but they are talking to Oman about the Strait of Hormuz. Why Oman? Because it's a neutral player in the region, and Iran's trying to control the narrative around this critical choke point. One thing that immediately stands out is how much the Strait of Hormuz matters. It's not just about oil, it's about global power dynamics. If you take a step back and think about it, Iran's move to negotiate a temporary shipping route with Oman is a strategic play to keep the U.S. at arm's length while still maintaining control. What many people don't realize is that this isn't just about Iran versus the U.S., it's about Iran's broader strategy to assert itself as a regional power without getting boxed in by Trump's unpredictability. Now, let's talk about the Ukraine angle. Iran's threatening necessary measures after Ukraine attacked one of its ships in the Caspian Sea. What makes this really interesting is the timing. Iran's already under pressure from the U.S., and now Ukraine's throwing another wrench into the mix. Zelensky's like, we didn't mean to open a new front, but Iran's not buying it. From my perspective, this feels like Iran's using the incident to flex its muscles and show it won't be pushed around. But here's the thing, Iran's also walking a tightrope. They're supplying drones to Russia, which Ukraine's not happy about, so this attack could be seen as retaliation. What this really suggests is that Iran's foreign policy is becoming more reactive, more aggressive, and that's a trend to watch. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister is on the phone with Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. Why? Because Iran's trying to shore up regional alliances while the U.S. is distracted. In my opinion, this is Iran's way of saying, we're not isolated, and we've got options. But here's where it gets tricky. Saudi Arabia's been cozying up to the U.S. lately, so Iran's outreach could be a Hail Mary to prevent further isolation. What's really striking is how little transparency there is from the Trump administration. They promised the most transparent administration ever, but 6 months into this war, we're getting crumbs. No Pentagon briefings, vague statements, it's like they're trying to keep the public in the dark. Personally, I think this lack of transparency is deliberate. Trump's playing a high-stakes game with Iran, and he doesn't want the public or Congress asking too many questions. Here's the bigger picture. The Strait of Hormuz is the linchpin of this conflict. Iran's saying it'll never go back to its pre-war status, and that's a huge deal. What this implies is that Iran's using the war to permanently reshape its role in the region. If you ask me, this is Iran's long game. They're not just fighting the U.S., they're fighting for a new regional order where they call the shots. But here's the kicker, Trump's claiming a deal's imminent, but Iran's denying it. Who's telling the truth? My guess is neither side's being fully honest. Trump's probably trying to save face after backing down from strikes, and Iran's trying to maintain leverage. So, what's the takeaway? This conflict's messier than it looks. It's not just about denuclearization or oil, it's about power, pride, and the future of the Middle East. One thing's for sure, neither side's backing down anytime soon. And as for us? We're left piecing together the truth from a maze of half-truths and strategic leaks. What do you think? Is Trump overpromising, or is Iran playing the long game? Let me know in the comments. This is one of those stories where the more you dig, the more questions you have.